What's going on, guys? Hope this video finds you well. So I have officially completed every single trophy in the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collections, both Volume 1 and Volume 2. So this video is not going to be a guide, strictly speaking. There are guides out there that I will point you to and suggest when it comes to completing a lot of these. But I just kind of wanted to give some tips and pieces of advice regarding completing these for those who are diving in and trying to attempt this, so that maybe I can save you guys some time. I wish I was able to save, but also give some tips that will save you time that I was really glad that I made use of. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I really would appreciate it if you're not subscribed, if you would do so. I try to upload pretty regularly on the channel, and I've got a few Battle Network video ideas, although I like to talk about a variety of different franchises and topics and whatnot. But regardless, I do appreciate any and all support when it comes to liking, subscribing, commenting, all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's work our way through these. So first and foremost, use the download chip for the first time. Super easy. You simply go to the Mega Man menu in any one of the Volume 1 games, hit the Y button or triangle button if you're playing on controller, select one of the download chips, download them. You just throw the download chip in your folder and use it, and that's that. But you might only need to download it. I haven't been able to verify. Next, we have use the music player to listen to one or more songs from each game. You simply back out, go to the music player, and then listen to, like it says, one track from each game. I don't know if special counts or not. Really easy one to knock out really quickly. Complete Mega Man Battle Network 1, 2, and 3. So in both volumes of the Legacy Collection, there are trophies for completing each Battle Network game, including the different versions. So you'll see later on there's one for clearing BN3 White and BN3 Blue. So you'll actually proc this achievement before completing all of those, because you only have to complete one version of the two version games in order to proc this. So you only need to beat 1, 2, and one of the versions of 3. Next, we have take part in more than 100 battles. This will just come naturally. Jack in more than 100 times. Same deal here. It'll proc at some point. Use the chip trader 30 times. Now this one is really easy to accomplish because it's just like it says, use the chip trader 30 times. And I'm assuming this is across all games, but I would suggest being careful with trading away certain chips. I'd recommend for certain games in these collections to avoid using the chip trader if you can, because it might screw you over with regards to certain chips you need for certain trades or requests or whatever it might be. Use the chip trader special 30 times. So this is the one that costs 10 chips to trade, whereas the regular chip trader is only 3 per. If you're fighting most battles across the 4 playthroughs, you're probably going to have more than enough. Something that I want to note is that you can't save scum the traders in these games. I don't remember if that was the case in the GBA version as well, but if you trade away chips and get something back, and then you try to save scum, you're going to notice that those chips that you just traded away are gone. It auto saves for you, basically, which is going to come into play with the very last achievement on this list too. Earn your first S rank in an in-game battle. This will come automatically. Next, we have the style change trophies. This is 1 trophy per style that is available in BN2 and 3, since style changes are exclusive to those games. Now you'll notice some of these are available in 2 and 3, whereas these last 3 are only available in certain versions. So bug style is exclusive to BN3. Whether it be white or blue doesn't matter. You can get it in either of those, but not in BN2. Shadow style is exclusive to BN3 blue, and ground style exclusive to BN3 white. But even regarding the styles that are available in BN2, being Guts, Custom, Team, and Shield, the number of battles you need to participate in to change styles in BN2 is much higher than BN3. I think it's like 200 something in BN2, and it's cut down to just 100. And I say just 100, but you'll get style changes and upgrades a lot quicker in BN3. In order to get these, you need to utilize certain strategies more regularly than others. So for Gut style, it's primarily using the Buster. This is usually the default style I end up getting without trying to go for something else, because the Mega Buster is just a very powerful tool that you always have access to, and it's very likely, especially if you're a beginner, that you're gonna probably get Gut style or Team style first. And so in my BN2 playthroughs, I ended up getting Guts and Team, and then I saved getting Shield and Custom for my BN3 playthroughs. And I will point you in the direction of Rock Band EXE Zone. There's a style change guide. There's a whole breakdown of like what actions contribute to which style changes and by how much and all of that kind of stuff, but I'm just kind of giving the general tips. And I'd say Rock Band EXE Zone is probably the best resource for most of these, though there are some game facts guides that I did use that were useful for some of the later ones. So Custom, generally it's selecting a lot of chips from the custom screen before entering battle, and also using program advances, I believe. believe. Team style, it's by using mega chips, or Navi chips as they're called in BN1 and maybe BN2 as well. And so using a lot of those, this one's really easy to grind for, whether it be in 2 or 3. You might even naturally get it. Shield style, I specifically went for when I was streaming Battle Network 3 Blue as my first style. And I would kind of suggest trying to manipulate which style you get for your first style in BN3, because there's not a battle limit to acquiring that. It occurs naturally during the story, but then following style changes or upgrades occur after 100 battles. And so maybe picking one of the more niche ones that you wouldn't normally acquire would be best. This style, you have to use barriers and guard chips. I think recovery chips also contribute to shield style. It's not exactly, for my play style, what I would deem to be a natural course of action towards getting a style change. That one can be tricky if you don't get it early on, because you're probably not going to want to be using barriers and recovery chips the further you get. Then we have ground style. This is by using chips that crack panels. Another somewhat niche one, but you just kind of fill your folder with those, use them as often as possible during battle, and go from there. This one didn't really give me trouble with getting it. Shadow style is probably the most specific because you need to use invis chips. You can use mole chips as well, which is another invis type of chip, but you're pretty limited on that, and so you need to be careful when trying to go for this one that you're using those invisible chips more often than you are using the shield stuff or mega chips or your buster. And so what I did was I tagged invis as my regular chip and always made sure to use it, and tried to avoid like selecting too many chips on the custom screen to avoid getting custom by accident, etc, etc. And then bug style you acquire by having bugs in your Navi customizer. There's also a whole Navi customizer guide. Actually, there's one for each of the games that has that, so 3, 4, 5, and 6. On Rock Band EXE Zone, it's pretty simple. You just do battles with bugs in the Navi cust, which is pretty easy to accomplish. You just put either a solid Navi customizer part off of the command line, or you put one of the textured ones on the command line. You put colors that are the same next to each other, etc, etc. Now the battles can be tough because some of these bugs, drain your health or cause you to move erratically or whatever. This was one that I grinded for in BN3 White, which was my second playthrough of BN3 for this collection, and I don't think I had much trouble. It's just, again, it's the same thing where you want to be careful to not be using some of these other tactics that would cause you to get a style other than bug. If you're looking at the guide and you're being smart about your decisions, and even if you decide to grind them out, it shouldn't be too bad. These are definitely some of the grindier ones potentially, because if you just play naturally, you're probably not going to end up with some of these unless you're explicitly going for them. Successfully activate a program advance. This is super easy. Program advances are sets of 3 chips. Actually, I think there are some that are 5, but most of them are 3 chip sequences like Cannon A, Cannon B, and Cannon C, or something like Sword S, Wide Sword S, and Long Sword S. Those are some of the easiest ones to acquire in these games, and I guess if you don't know how program advances work, you might not encounter this naturally, but even if you just do what I just said with Z Cannon or Life Sword, that'll count. Acquire all addresses in Mega Man Battle Network 1. So these you might not stumble across naturally. There's a total of 8. I just kind of looked it up and figured it out. Acquire all chips, including download chips, in Mega Man Battle Network. So this is undoubtedly the grindiest trophy for Volume 1. And I kind of did a video on this already called the Mega Man Battle Network 100% Experience, where I kind of gave some suggestions on that as far as some of the harder to acquire chips. And I would just say, once again, be careful with the chip trader, because you might need certain ones for certain NPC trades. There's a particular NPC trade for Buster Guard where you need 30 Mech Guard A's, and that can be a pain in the ass to grind for, but you'll probably encounter and acquire some of those naturally in the early game. So I would encourage you to hold on to those in particular. But I would, before playing Mega Man Battle Network, to look up a guide and kind of figure out what chips you need for certain NPC trades and not to trade those away, because that'll make your life a hell of a lot harder. I did accomplish all of these trophies without online trading at all. So I did this all on my own. You could, of course, make a Reddit post or a GameFAQs post or something and try to find someone who plays on your same system and has that chip to trade to you. That is always an option, but this is totally feasible without it. What I will say and reiterate from my prior video is do not be shy about using Buster Max in BN1. BN2 and 3, you definitely don't need to for the trophies, but for BN1 in particular, it's going to be extremely grindy even with Buster Max. And then if you're not using Buster Max, it's going to take even longer and be even even more tedious because a lot of the drop rates are very unfortunate in the original BN1. This was fixed in Operation Shooting Star, which is the Japanese-only DS version of BN1. That is not the version they ported. They ported the GBA versions, which is understandable, but I kind of wish they would have changed it to where when you S-rank a boss, you're guaranteed to get their chip instead of having it be a coin flip as to whether you get money or chips. I guess thanks to the money drops, I was able to get all the HP memories and power-ups in BN1. My Mega Man in that game is completely maxed, but that's not necessary for the trophies. So don't be afraid to use Buster Max in BN1 post-game for grinding a lot of these chips. I know I wish I had turned it on a lot sooner than I did prior to realizing how shitty a lot of the drop rates are in this game, but again, it is totally feasible. Just make sure you're referencing some kind of guide. I looked at the Mega Man Battle Network wiki for some info, but then Rockman EXE Zone has more details, and good luck, because this one is kind of a pain. Correctly answer all the Quizmaster's questions in Mega Man Battle Network. So the Quizmaster is the last quiz NPC. This is easily Googleable. The answers you can do by trial and error, or you can just look them up. These games have been out for a long time, so a lot of this info is very easily accessible. There's a variety of different quiz NPCs throughout these games, but some of them are locked behind certain story thresholds, so you could save it for post-game. It's not missable in that way. Complete Mega Man Battle Network. Super easy. You're going to accomplish this by default, prior to even getting some of the previous ones we talked about. Find and return a lost set of dentures in Mega Man Battle Network. So this is one of the side quests. In fact, these three are some of the only side quests in BN1. Easily Googleable again. I don't even really recall having any problems with this. Defeat Woodman, Skullman, Sharkman, and Protoman in Mega Man Battle Network 1. Really easy. Well, Sharkman is actually pretty difficult in BN1, so if you really need to, you could use Buster Max, and I guess you're going to be grinding for their chips anyway, for the getting all the chips achievement that I already talked about, so these will then come by default unless you get extremely lucky with the chip traders or something and you get all of them through that, or if you happen to trade online for them and not actually fight them. And now we're on to BN2, or I guess the style ones were BN2 and 3, but now we're on to more BN2 trophies. Correctly answer all of the Quiz King's questions in BN2. This is the same thing as the Quizmaster from BN1. There's a couple of prior quiz people that you need to do before the Quiz King. Quiz King is accessible very late in the game, so maybe worth just waiting unless you naturally encounter some of the other quiz guys throughout. Obtain the S license in Mega Man Battle Network 2. So something that I did and went out of my way to do in BN2 that isn't required is getting hub style, which requires not just the S license, but the double S and triple S licenses, which require a lot of steps. I'm not going to go over how to get hub style. That's pretty easily Googleable, and it's also not required, so I don't feel the need to go over that. But let me refresh my memory on what the S license requirements are, because you will not naturally get this. Right, so I think the only prerequisite for the S license is completing all of the jobs on the job board in the official center. There's not that many of them in this game, but you do that and then you jack into the comp that's in the next room. You talk to one of the Navis in that homepage and he will issue a 10-round endurance battle to you to give you the S license. Pretty easily missable. I had to look this up because I wasn't as familiar with BN2, but not too bad. It's just doing all the jobs, but I don't remember any of the jobs in BN2 being particularly strenuous. Complete Battle Network 2. Easy. It'll just come naturally. And then these are various requests that I already mentioned. So if you're doing all the requests, you're going to get these naturally. Defeat Snake Man, Thunder Man, Toad Man, and Gate Man in BN2. Again, very easy to find these guys and fight them. I'm pretty sure you have to fight some of them for story purposes, but very easy to accomplish in general. Then we have correctly answer all the Quiz King's questions in BN3. Same deal as the previous two quiz achievements. Receive the extra folder from Folder Boy in BN3. So this one is very specific. During the N1 Grand Prix, when you go to Hades Isle, you're going to hit a point where they're going to announce you have X amount of time to pick an extra folder before proceeding. What you want to do is you want to go all the way to the top of the outside of Hades Isle and talk to the kid who calls himself Folder Boy. He's going to issue a quiz to you, which is very easily doable just by trial and error, even within the time limit. But you could always Google the answers. This is something that is missable. However, since you're going to have to play through BN3 on the two different versions, if you miss it the first time, just make sure you grab it the second time. It's not super far in the story, but it's far enough to where it would be annoying if you missed this. And plus, Folder Boy's folder is, in my experience, the best one to use anyway. It's like a very good folder and worth the hassle of doing the quiz and stuff like that. So highly recommended anyway, let alone the fact that it's required for a trophy. Then we have complete BN3 White and BN3 Blue blue, like I said, it's going to come naturally. So then we have complete certain requests. So there's not a trophy for completing all the requests in BN3. It's only specifically these late game ones. I remember one of these being kind of specific and tedious, but I would just look up a guide. GameFAQs tends to have good guides when it comes to requests, and that's typically what I use for the request trophies in particular. I would just say, once again, be wary of the chip traders. Also be wary of like spending all of your money. Worst case, you end up just grinding. Not like a huge deal. These were pretty easily accomplishable, especially compared to what you have to do for BN1. Feed a virus for the first time in BN3. So at a certain point in BN3, you're going to gain access to the virus breeder, which I don't feel the need to give like all of the details. Basically, there's certain spots in certain comps and on the network in general that will give you a rare encounter of viruses. And if you defeat those viruses, they get added to the virus breeder. And so in order to feed the viruses, you feed them bug frags. What I would recommend is save scumming this. So like feed them for the first time. That's super easy. It doesn't cost that many bug frags to do that. But then we have acquire an SP virus in BN3. After you defeat the final boss, you feed a family of viruses 100 bug frags, at which point you talk to the Mr. Prog that takes care of that virus family, and he will point you in the direction of a boss virus you have to defeat, and then you gain access to the SP virus that way. But I would recommend, once again, save scumming this because you're going to need a lot of bug frags for an achievement we're going to talk about in a second. So feeding them once, not a big deal. But when it's time to do this in the post game, feed them the 100, go fight the boss, and get the SP virus, but then reset. So you get those 100 bug frags back. You're going to want those. Trust me. Unless I guess you do this in one version and then you do this other one that's upcoming in the other. It just kind of depends. Just be mindful of your resources, I guess. Then we have defeat Metal Man, Punk, Bowman, and Mistman. So Metal Man is available in both versions, Punk and Bowman only in blue, and Mistman in white. And so these two are story related. Punk can be found by the Yoka Zoo in blue version, and then Metal Man by the entrance to the inn in Yoka. So pretty hard to miss. Activate Mega Man's Humor for the first time in BN3. So Humor is a Navi customizer part. You need to acquire it, run it in the Navi cust, and then press L, which usually is a hint button, but when you have Humor equipped, it has Mega Man telling jokes. Then we have a deceptively difficult to achieve trophy in using the bug frag trader 20 times. The bug frag trader is available in the secret area of BN3, which is post-game exclusive. Now, as to not spoil BN3, I'm going to be vague, but if you've played to this point in the story, you will know what I'm talking about. You go to the server in Yoka that is part of the story, but you can't access secret area until post game. You jack in, you go to the secret area. Unfortunately, the bug frag trader is not in secret area 1, and so you kind of have to make your way pretty far into it, and you need quite the amount of bug frags to do 20 trades because you can't save scum, as I mentioned with the chip traders. And so making sure that you have enough bug frags to do this in one trip is definitely ideal. So it's 10 bug frags per trade. You can get some of the rarer chips through this bug frag trader, so that's cool, but that is 200 bug frags you need. And so that's why I recommend with the SP virus thing to not save upon doing that. Just get the trophy to proc and then reset to before you fed the viruses 100 bug frags, because that'll save you a lot of grinding. Although getting bug frags in BN3 is definitely easier than in some of the later games because you can guarantee it by countering enemies in battle. The fact that this bug frag trader is in secret area 3 means you have to clear several blockades in order to even access this bug frag trader. So the first door in secret area 1, after which you would fight Darkman, you need 140 standard chips. You may naturally end up getting that, but you might need to grind for a few extras. I think I had maybe 120 or 130 something, and so I did have to grind for certain chips that I didn't have access to, but that is something that you'll probably be used to, assuming you did BN1 first, of course. I forget which door you need for Secret 2, but the Door of Trust requires you to do all of the jobs, which I believe is the door that you need to fight Japan Man / Yamato Man. And then Door of Power, which I want to say is the one blocking the bug frag trader, requires getting a single Giga chip, which is not super hard to do. That's a Googleable one. Door of Love is opened by getting all the virus breeder viruses. That's definitely not required because I didn't do that in BN3. I mean, it is required to 100% the game, but not for the sake of getting to the bug frag trader. And the final door before Serenade is getting all of the standard chips, but you don't need that for the bug frag trader. And I would recommend, as far as figuring out how to get through the secret area, because it can be tricky to maneuver, if you Google Cossack's Lab, BN Gen 3 or 4 or whatever it might be, Google should take you to the correct page on which you have access to pretty much every map that you would need for these games, which did come in handy, particularly for BN1, I would recommend, but for BN3 secret area as well. So yeah, the main thing with this one is getting 140 standard chips and having 200 bug frags before even really bothering to try to go do this, at which point you're just gonna, you know, give all those bug frags away for the sake of this trophy. It could be pretty grindy, but if you're trying to get as many bug frags as possible throughout your playthrough, you probably don't even really need to grind for bug frags much by the end. And then the 140 chips, yeah, you'll probably not encounter that many naturally, but it's just kind of, you know, part of the process, I guess. This was the last one that I ended up completing because it was a lot more grindy than I initially anticipated. And that is the end of the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 1 trophy list. Because this recording ended up taking longer than I expected, I think I'm actually going to split up Volume 1 and 2 into separate videos, so don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, if you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next video.